What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. There's a point in every empire's slow, painful unraveling where the cracks stop being hidden and start screaming. And right now, one of the loudest cracks in Putin's Russia is not in Moscow, not in St. Petersburg, not even along the Ukrainian front lines. It is in Kaliningrad, Russia's lonely western outpost wedged between Poland, Lithuania, like a geopolitical orphan that never asked for any of this chaos. For decades, Kaliningrad played the strange role of being Russia's most European region. You literally could hop across the border, go shopping, work, study, travel, trade, anything. People spoke foreign languages, English was their second language, and they had European friends, drank European beer, lived in this surreal bubble that felt detached from the harsh Moscow-centric reality. It was not heaven, not paradise, but, well, it was not Russia either. It was something in between. And then came Putin's war. Now Kaliningrad is sealed off, strangled by sanctions, drowning in shortages, and treated by the Kremlin as if it's some kind of rebellious child plotting an escape. The exclave that once thrived on openness was transformed into an island of paranoia. Trains stopped, trade collapsed, fuel shortages became normal, and residents woke up one day realizing that they were paying the price for a war they never even asked for, pretty much like not a single Russian did either. Wars, nobody in Moscow even bothered pretending to care. So today, let's talk about why Kaliningrad became Russia's ticking time bomb, why the Kremlin fears its people more than NATO tanks, and why this region, forgotten, isolated, punished, might be the first place where the empire finally feels the backlash of its own disastrous decisions. What Kaliningrad really is. A chunk of Russian territory completely cut off from Russia itself. To get there, you have to cross the European Union. That was not a problem before the invasion of Ukraine. People lived normally, trucks drove without delays, trains traveled freely. Families went to Lithuania for groceries because it was cheaper. Students even crossed into Poland to just study. Businesses relied on Europe, not Moscow, for survival. Kaliningrad was Russia's accidental experiment in semi-European living. But now, imagine this. One day the war begins, sanctions roll in like a tidal wave, and suddenly you discover that your entire region depends on the goodwill of countries. Your government is actively threatening every single day. Lithuania, as a result, begins restricting transit. Poland tightens border controls. European sanctions block half of what Kaliningrad used to import. And overnight, this so-called window to Europe becomes a brick wall. Prices skyrocket, shelves empty, and energy supplies start trembling under pressure. Fuel shortages, power restrictions, logistical nightmares, all of this is just, and that's pretty much it. Kaliningrad becomes a strangled island whose lifeline was cut by decisions made thousands of kilometers away by people who have never even been there, most of them at least. Residents began asking questions no propaganda can silence. Why are we paying for Putin's war? Why do we suffer when we had nothing to do with even Ukraine with this country? Why does Europe suddenly treats us like a threat when our grandparents were buying flour across the border in the 1960s and nobody blinked? People did not become separatists, they became realists. They realized that the Kremlin was never thinking about Kaliningrad at all in the first place. Moscow just assumed that the region would obey because, it always did, kinda. But obedience gets complicated when your food prices double, your electricity flickers, and your entire future depends on the moods of foreign countries your government publicly insults every day. Kaliningraders are not stupid. They know their economy is not connected to Russia, it's connected to Europe. They know that the Kremlin's grand strategy turned them into prisoners of geography. And the most dangerous part for the Kremlin, people started saying these things out loud. They started realizing it. 2025 is almost over and we are falling into the same trap again, waiting for January 1st to start and then just to start something new or learn a new skill. But here's the truth, you don't need a new year to make a new start. AI was one of the most in-demand skills of 2025 according to the World Economic Forum. Yet, most of us did not learn it. And that puts us to risk, not just at falling behind, but of being replaced. You guys still have 45 days to learn AI and step into 2026 as a more skilled, smarter, and employable individual than just in 2 days. Let me tell you about the 2-day live AI mastermind training by Outskill, the world's first AI-focused educational platform, happening this Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on both days. And the timing is perfect, because they have their year and holiday offer going on, so you can get in absolutely for free, instead of the usual $395. Outskill is rated 4.9 out of 5 on Trustpilot, and this 16-hour live experience by them has been attended by more than 10 million people worldwide, professionals like you, across fields like in marketing, finance, engineering, and data, mentored directly by AI experts from companies like Microsoft and Nvidia. The best part about it all, this training is not just about learning tools, it's about challenging the way you work. You will learn how to use AI to simplify your daily tasks, build AI agents that plan, create, and automate your workflows, design AI automations that connect tools like Sheets, Notions, and CRMs to save hours, and also gain ready-to-use AI systems for your job, business, or freelance projects. But learning those skills is not just enough. The most important part is knowing how to monetize them. Outskill's learners have launched AI-powered businesses that even build weekly revenue models worth $4,000 to $5,000. Not just that, you will receive bonuses worth $5,000, including a prompt Bible, a roadmap to monetize AI, and a personalized AI toolkit builder, but only if you attend both these days. This Christmas, gift this opportunity to someone who you think could benefit from learning AI, as it could change their career in 2026. Seats are limited, grab yours now via the link in the description, and also you can join the WhatsApp community to stay updated before the big blast. Thank you so much Outskill for sponsoring this video, and now back to the program. Before the war, ask any Kaliningrad resident who their neighbors were, and they will tell you. Friends. Poles crossed the border to shop in Kaliningrad because prices also were lower. Russians crossed the border the other way because the quality of life was higher. Families visited each other, businesses cooperated, students attended European universities and then even applied for European jobs. For 80 plus years, despite all political tension, the region built a peaceful relationship with Europe. Even during the Cold War, Kaliningrad was strange, yes, militarized and everything, but culturally still intertwined with Europe. Then Putin just flipped the table. And suddenly Europe became the enemy. Suddenly Kaliningrad's neighbors, Lithuania, Poles, were framed as NATO puppets, fascists, aggressors, all this dirty stuff. And well, people in Kaliningrad said, what are you even talking about? These are literally the people we traded with yesterday. We saw them yesterday. We went to eat with them. These are the people our kids went to school with. These are the countries whose supermarkets saved us when Russian supply chain collapsed, when you did not help us. Europe was not some mythical threat, it was a real, living partner and friend. That's why the sanctions hit Kaliningrad especially so brutally. Because this region was not designed to live in isolation. It had no reason to, it never intended to. And anger is growing because residents feel betrayed by their own government. They're not asking for independence, not yet. They're asking why their peaceful coexistence with Europe was sacrificed for a war waged thousands of kilometers away. A war that gave them absolutely no benefits, no victories, no opportunities, nothing. Only shortages, scrutiny and suspicion. Kaliningraders used to cross the border in 20 minutes. Now they just cannot cross at all. They used to enjoy European quality of life while still being Russian citizens. Well, now they enjoy neither European life nor Russian stability. They are simply trapped between two worlds and are welcome in neither. And this is where true paranoia begins, both for the region's residents and for the Kremlin's inhabitants. Because when people are left unchecked, people start asking questions. And when people ask questions, doubt creeps inside their minds. Let's talk about it more details in our next chapter. The strangest shift in Kaliningrad was not economic, it was psychological. The Kremlin became terrified that the region might slip away, that Europe's influence might make people question Moscow's ambitions and decisions. Hopefully it will. And the minute Kremlin fears separatism somewhere, even when it does not exist, the iron fist comes down. Security services intensified surveillance, local journalists were pressured, any single mention of dissatisfaction became a foreign influence operation, even mildest criticism was labeled extremism. Authorities began whispering about Polish intelligence stirring separatism sentiment, as if people needed spies to explain why their electricity bills doubled, as if somebody needed CIA pamphlets and brochures to figure out that isolating a small piece of land from its major trading partners might be, kind of bad economic decision, might be bad for the economy of the region, but you never know, I guess, right? Well, this paranoia created a fortress mentality. More checkpoints, more military drills, more rumors about NATO attacks, and, what the irony? People in Kaliningrad never feared NATO. They feared the Kremlin, ignoring them again. They feared that the region was one political tantrum away from collapse. They feared that Moscow would continue using Kaliningrad as a pawn, while giving absolutely nothing in return. And, they have been right to fear it all along. The Kremlin simply does not know how to treat Kaliningrad, has so much other things on their plate. If it loosens control, the region drifts towards Europe because that's where its economic oxygen is. It's where its true friends are. It's where the future for so many young Kaliningraders lies. On the other hand, if Kremlin tightens control, resentment grows and people start asking even more dangerous questions. The kind that Kremlin obviously hates. The kind that cannot be answered with only propaganda. Such as, why did our lives get worse when the Kremlin promised they would suddenly get better after invading another country? Why is our region punished for a war we did not even start? Why are sanctions destroying our economy when Moscow told us sanctions would absolutely mean nothing? Why are we being treated like enemies by the very neighbors we lived peacefully beside for generations? And, there is even one destabilizing question. Why does Kaliningrad even belong to Russia if Russia cannot take care of it? Kremlin has no answers, not to any of those questions. So instead it just watches, terrified, pretending everything is fine while hoping nobody notices the pressure cooker hissing louder and louder. Here is the most uncomfortable truth, at least for Kremlin. Kaliningrad is strategically vital, but emotionally disposable for the Kremlin. It's a military base first, a home for million people second. Moscow cares about Kaliningrad only as a launch pad for missiles. Everything else is trade, economy, quality of life, stability. All this is just secondary. That is precisely why Kaliningrad is becoming a time bomb. Economically, the region is dying. It cannot, unfortunately, rely on Russia because Russia is far away and sanctioned. It cannot rely on Europe because relations are destroyed by one man. It is stuck in no man's land where everything costs more and everything takes longer to arrive, if arrive at all. Businesses are closing, professionals are leaving, young people are asking whether it makes even sense to stay at all. Socially, deep frustration is boiling. People feel abandoned, they feel punished, they feel cut off from the world for absolutely no logical reason. Kaliningraders who once felt proud of their own unique position now feel like hostages in a geopolitical game they never agreed to play. Politically, the Kremlin is panicking. Not openly, of course, never openly, but, the signs are clear. Increased FSB activity, harsh laws, sudden arrests, sudden accusations of extremism out of nowhere. The regime senses the danger, but, it cannot admit that this danger exists. If Kaliningrad begins to question Moscow's grip, other regions might do the same, might follow the suit. Especially regions that suffered enormously during mobilization and regions economically destroyed by the war. You know those exactly which ones I'm talking about, right? Chechnya, Buryatia, Siberia, Tuva. Kaliningrad is not about to separate, not yet. That's not the point even at this point. The danger is deeper. Kaliningrad is the proof that Putin's system can no longer maintain the illusion of prosperity. It can no longer hide the consequences of war. It can no longer pretend that sanctions do not matter. In Kaliningrad, the lie is visible everywhere. On store shelves, at gas stations, in the closed borders, in the angry whispers at supermarket lines, in the simple fact that people no longer believe the fairy tale. And once people stop believing, regimes begin collapsing. Kaliningrad is a time bomb because people leaving there realize that they were sacrificed for nothing. Their quality of life is gone, their border mobility gone, relationship with Europe gone, their trust in Moscow evaporating by the day. Still some sort of trust there is, but not much, obviously. They never wanted war. They want normalcy. They want the life they had before Putin decided to drag the entire country into a self-destructive geopolitical crusade. They want electricity that does not flicker, food that does not cost a fortune, borders that do not feel like prison gates, and a government that actually acknowledges their very existence. But, the Kremlin cannot give them that. It cannot restore what it destroyed. And that is why Kaliningrad, Russia's isolated westernmost outpost, is becoming more dangerous to the regime than any NATO battalion. It is a mirror reflecting everything the system tried to hide: failure, decay, anger, and the slow erosion of fear. And sooner or later, mirrors do crack. Thank you so much Outskill for sponsoring this video. Please check the link down below, guys. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to my channel for more news like this. Thanks so much for watching. See you tomorrow.
We won't succumb to their tricks, the facade they try to sell. Their twisted words and feeble claims on us all they cannot quell. We see through their lies, their feeble attempts to sway. We do not believe